Today I'm going to talk about 4 things. Zero gravity thinking, about the paradox of expertise, about a gentleman of the name Will.i.am, and a personal favorite of mine, embracing bad ideas. So, are you ready? Yes. Wow, thank you. I was going to do it anyway, but I appreciate your enthusiasm. Thanks. All right. So before I'm going to dive into the 4 topics, I want to share a couple of thoughts with you about change and how change itself has changed. In the past, the world used to be linear. You know, things changed at a slow pace from century to century. But today, we are living in an exponential world, meaning that rapid-fire change is the new normal. Just think about all the things that are changing at an exponential pace. For instance, the number of mobile phones connected to the web is increasing at an exponential pace, as is the number of users using social media. Exponential pace, exponential increase, or the amount of data in the world today. Just think about it. 90% of the data in the world today has been created in the past 2 years. 90% in the past 2 years. That's exponential increase. All right, just to wrap our minds around this concept, let me give you an example. Let's imagine for a moment we're sitting in a football stadium, right? And there are drops of water dripping into the stadium, starting with 1 drop in the first minute, and then doubling every minute. So that means 2 drops in 2 minutes, 4 drops in 3 minutes, 8 drops in 4 minutes. You get the idea, right? So here's a question for you. What do you think? How long does it take until the stadium is filled to the very top? What's your estimate? You can talk to me. That makes things easier. All right, so just guess. What's your guess? Okay, I'm listening.
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. Oh, okay. But that doesn't work, right? We have like 2 drops in 2 minutes. So 2 hours, any other ideas? A day, okay. It takes approximately 47 minutes until the stadium is filled to the very top. So just think about it. It started with 1 drop in the first minute and then doubling every minute, 47 minutes. So hardly enough time to get into the life rafts, right? So it's mind-boggling, this concept of exponential increase. But there is a problem, and the problem is this thing here. It's our brain. Our brain is still very much at home in the linear world, right? And around us, we see a world that is at rapid-fire change, where exponential change is the new normal. And then there's still our good old brain. And I mean, we haven't had a software update or a hardware update in 2 million years that helps us to really wrap our minds around this concept of exponential pace. So that means, in the words of Peter Diamandis, who is the founder of the X Prize Foundation, he says, you know, the gap between the exponential increase that we see around us and our brain, you know, this gap provides the source for disruptive stress or opportunity. Disruptive stress and opportunity. There's a second challenge involved, however. And the second challenge for us is that change is subjective. Just think about it for a moment. You wake up in the morning, you go to the bathroom, you look in the mirror, and you're familiar with your face, right? Some people are like, no, not after a particularly rough night, no. Okay, I get it. But let's say on a good day, chances are good that you recognize yourself. And you look in the mirror and you think like, hey, still the same old me. And in other words, you don't notice any incremental changes. But it is a different story when you meet let's assume you meet the kids of an old friend, and you haven't seen the kids in quite a while. And you look at the kids and you think, holy moly, look how much they've grown since I last saw them. So in other words, it's easy to recognize change in other people, to recognize change in other industries or other jobs. But with regard to our own life, with regard to our own job, we underestimate the pace of change, or we see it belatedly. And that is the challenge, because in a world that used to develop at a linear pace, that wasn't a problem. If you missed a turn in the road, there was still plenty of time to catch up. But in today's topsy-turvy times, where rapid-fire change is a new normal, the days of reactive behavior are over. And that means one of our biggest challenges that we are facing, whether we like it or not, that's not the issue here, but it's a big challenge. How do we bridge the gap between exponential change out there and our brain that is still very much at home in the linear world? All right, how can you do that? First of all, my recommendation, be aware of the paradox of expertise. Why is expertise a paradox? It's great, right? After a couple of years in the same job, you're very familiar with what you do, you know what you do, it's great. But there's a downside to it, however. And the downside is that the longer you are in a certain industry, the longer you are in a certain job, you tend to develop a tunnel vision. Because you think you know your customers. You think you know what drives success. You think that you know what makes the market tick. And that's the paradox of expertise. Let me give you an example to illustrate why we need to be very cautious with regard to expertise. Nearly every hotel on this planet follows the same rule. And the rule in the hotel industry is no matter when you check in, at 12 noon on the next day, you have to leave. Right? Checkout time, 12 noon. A while ago, I spoke about this with a hotel manager and asked him, why is it that somebody who checks in late in the evening has to check out at the same time as somebody who checks in early in the afternoon, right? So they have to leave at the same time. I don't think that's very fair, and I don't think it's customer friendly. And then I said, well, why don't you think differently? Why don't you rent rooms by the hour? Well, not what some of you are thinking right now. That's no. A different business model. Now, I was talking about the idea of renting a room, let's say, for 20 hours, meaning that when you check in late in the evening, you can keep the room until the afternoon of the next day, whereas when you check in early, you have to leave early, right? So transparent, customer-friendly, and I think innovative. But here's the thing. The more I argued in favor of my newfound idea, the more his attitude changed. And he stood in front of me like that. And he looked at me with a quite dismissive look in his eyes, and he said, you know what your problem is? You don't understand the rules of the hotel industry. Well, I don't know if that is a problem or a blessing. I definitely vote for the latter. But here's the thing. After a couple of years in the same job, in the same industry, you tend to develop a tunnel vision. And phrases like, in my expertise, it can't be done any other way. Or a personal favorite of mine, Anja, if it were possible, somebody else would have already done it. Yeah, rings a bell, right? So phrases like that are strong hints that you might be confirming a belief that is not necessarily correct. You might be confirming a belief that is not necessarily correct. And that is a great invitation for newcomers and disruptors that conquer the market by changing the rules of the game. That's why we have to be extra cautious with regard to these phrases. And that's why zero gravity thinking is so important. What the heck is zero gravity thinking? It means that you don't let what you know limit what you can imagine. In other words, don't let your expertise fool you. Right? This gentleman is will.i.am. He is a rapper, music producer, philanthropist, and entrepreneur. And he was invited to speak at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And he was asked an interesting question, because journalists wanted to know what the business world could learn from the disruptive change in the music business. And will.i.am's answer is thought-provoking. He says, the lesson learned, your place is not guaranteed. Amen to that. Nobody's place is guaranteed. A Gallup survey underlines will.i.am's statement. Approximately 500 CEOs from different industries were asked who has taken the best advantage of change over the past 10 years. And you see there are three options: my company, traditional competitors, or newcomers. And the number one answer was newcomers. So here comes question number 2. How did the newcomers succeed? By executing better or by changing the rules of the game? Guess what? By changing the rules of the game. Welcome to a world of exponential change. So what does it mean? Even for us, I mean, we're not CEOs, right? But the message is still the same. The message that we should start looking for disconfirming evidence, for things in our life, in our jobs that don't fit. Because a confirmation of what you already believe is a waste of time. Confirmation of what you already believe is a waste of time. So practice zero gravity thinking and practice a certain philosophy about life, a philosophy that I'm going to show you in my next photo. I love it because it's a philosophy about life that I totally subscribe to. This one. Yes. All right. Next topic, embrace bad idea. Why on earth should you be doing that? Why should you be embracing bad ideas? Well, when you look at great artists, successful entrepreneurs, super successful inventors, you will see that they have one thing in common. One thing in common. And the thing that they have in common is that they all produce many, many ideas. And not all of these ideas are great ones. I mean, they are good ideas, and naturally, they are bad ideas. And it's not about judging the ideas in the first step. The first step is to create as many ideas as possible, and the judgment and selection process comes later. Dean Simonton is a professor of psychology at the University of California, and he has been researching a very interesting topic for over 4 decades. And his topic is what drives creative excellence. All right? What drives creative excellence? And his answer is high quality of your ideas is the result of high quantity. If you produce more masterpieces, you also produce significant more crap. Yes, crap. That's somehow very reassuring, isn't it? So let me give you an example from the world of music. On the x-axis, you see the number of compositions that composers have created over the course of their life. And on the vertical axis, you see the significance of their compositions in the context of the history of music. When you look at true geniuses, people like Bach or Mozart or Beethoven, you will find that they have one thing in common. One thing in common. And the thing they have in common is that they composed a lot. And not all of their compositions were masterpieces. Some of them were, and others weren't. So what does it mean for the rest of us, for the non-geniuses, like in a normal job, in a normal environment? Well, it means that we should strive to create many, many ideas, to come up with new ideas all the time. So maybe like 1,000 ideas. Also invite your colleagues, invite your teams to be as creative as possible. And then you don't know whether it works or not, right? So you go into the experimentation phase. You see what works, what doesn't, where people just say like, huh? What the heck is that, right? And so you take it back, tune it a little bit, and go out again. So, and then maybe you come up with 10 really promising projects. And if you're really, really lucky, you will end up with 1 or maybe 2 great innovations, if you're really lucky. Welcome to the learning curve in an exponential world. To sum up my presentation, it brings me to the most important question at all. And the most important question at all that all of us should be asking ourselves on a daily basis is this one. Are we learning as fast as the world is changing? And when you can say that you embrace bad ideas, that you experiment vigorously, that you are not afraid to challenge old beliefs and dogmas, and when you practice zero-gravity thinking, you've got the best chances of learning as fast as the world is changing. Best of luck and Godspeed. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Thank you.